part, which explains you yourself can develop yourself for, in Marathi, there's a word, I'm not finding a correct English word for that. Uddhar karne म्हणतात मराठीमध्ये. So that this particular word, verse of Bhagavad Gita says that you yourself is your friend and you yourself is your enemy. So what you want to make your life is totally dependent on you. That is the meaning. Going ahead on a law of karma, these are the 10 parts of law of karma, if you could see it here. And these will be explained one by one quickly. The first law says, it's known as great law. It's also known as law of cause and effect. Now, the moment you hear this word, as a management student, you must be knowing what is the meaning of cause and effect. Means whatever happens in the world around us, there is certain reason behind it. There is certain cause because of which it happens. And because of certain causes, there are certain effects. So whatever thoughts and energy we put out, we get back, good or bad. And that is a basic fundamental principle of law of karma, which I explained yesterday itself. So whatever you sow, means whatever you put it into the ground, the same is likely to come out. So you have to decide whether your behavior should be good or bad to the people. Accordingly, you will get the same fruits later. So if you're truly an ethical proprietor, now connecting this with a business, if you're truly ethical proprietor, then the kindness, knowledge, and extraordinary help you give to your customers, the net, you will get the returns or the total revenue or in the form of profits. So the more you are ethical towards your customer, the more customers will also be loyal to it. It is always like that. Then second part of law of karma is law of creation. It's about creating. You don't have to just wait for the things to happen magically, but you have to keep on making the things. So all those different things which are created in the form of innovation, or what we say in management as R&D, research and development activities, in a particular typically manufacturing company. So you have to be creative. I think here I would like to give you the example of Apple, who have been always differently creative about their products. That is their specialty. And the more innovative you are, the more your product will get sold and the more customer will be ready to buy it. And that may be one of the reasons why you must have checked that the handset which you're using right now. Now, I'm very much sure that you must have changed this handset not maybe just within 1 year or not lesser than that. So after every 1 year or 1.5 years or 2 years, you people change the handset. It's only here is the reason that you need to have some creative thing in whatever you're using, whatever you're doing. So in businesses, you need to be creative, and those will meet the customer needs. So that is the law of karma says that if you're creative, the customer will be more and more satisfied. So again, coming to that example, people are very much feeling proud about owning any product of Macintosh, that is Apple. And it's only because of the creativity. Law of humility, that means modesty or humbleness. So you have to change your life, and you have to first accept what currently exists. And then with reference to that, you have to assess the current knowledge, seeking your own education, what level you have, seeking the kind of training which you have undergone, and then you have to decide what extra do you want to put into there. So it means that for caring about your customer, for serving your customer, you have to come out with something more and more humble and more modest. And therefore, there is a separate subject in marketing specialization. The subject title is SERQUAL, SERQUAL. That is a combination of the word service and QUL is quality. So even if you are purchasing a product, say per se, so you purchase a 2-wheeler or a 4-wheeler, but then no doubt you purchase based on certain kind of surveys, certain kind of feedback from other people. But then there is one more thing associated with it is what is the kind of after sales service you're getting. And then when we are talking about after sales service, we speak out humility, modesty, humbleness. Talking typically about this tourism industry, tourism and hospitality industry, what works more is modesty and humbleness. And there is one very fine incidence about this when this Ratan Tata had been in some another hotel in some another country where Tata's hotel was not available there. Taj Hotel's chain was not there. So he went to some another star hotel And then at 10 o'clock at night, the waiter came and with a hot glass of water. So Ratan Tata was really surprised. So how do you know that at 10 o'clock at night, before sleeping, I drink a glass of hot water? So that waiter who had come to that their room, he said that 10 years before you had come to our hotel, and then that time you had ordered, you were here for 1 week, and that time every day night you have ordered one full glass of hot water, so that we have kept it on our record. And that has helped us to serve you better. And this amounted to the modesty or humbleness of the hospitality or that hotel administration, which has happened some 10 years before. And because of that, it has been said in one of the readings where I've read that Tata, whenever he goes to that company, goes only to that hotel. It's only because of that half glass of water which that person has offered to him as a courtesy, as a modesty, as a humbleness. So there is a lot of importance in businesses as far as humility or caring the customers is concerned. Then law of growth. There's a universal law of growth about expansion. That means as we grow, change and evolve internally, our external realities will also change and grow as a result. So this is again with reference to the creativity. If you want to grow, you have to do something different. And the moment you grow, along with the growth, there are many other factors which will come into the practice, or there are many factors which you will have to follow, which your routine will get changed, or you will have to alter the routine. Supposing, let's take the example of some personal life. Suppose you want to develop some good habits. Now, I could see that you people are getting up at 6 o'clock to attend this lecture or similar kind of lectures earlier, which is not a very common case in MBA institutes. Probably rather, I must mention that this is the first lecture in my entire life of management teaching, which I'm conducting at 6 o'clock in the morning. Irrespective of our institute, I call my students at 3:45 a.m. in the for my lectures. So that keeping my institute aside, yours is the only institution where it is seen that 6 o'clock getting up and a lecture. So this is going to develop you in a certain way, in a inculcative way, so that you will change your personal habits, because getting up early in the morning is supposed to be one of the best habits which every person on the earth should have, so that you can get up early, then you can have early morning exercises, maybe a walk outside, or maybe yoga and meditation that you can do. But then if you got your office at 9 o'clock, and if you get up at 8 o'clock, what you will do? So nothing can be happening. So if you want to expand yourself, develop yourself, you will have to change your external reality. Your external reality will also change. Probably your parents might be very much surprised. So it is that growth you want to have. You want to make the changes internally. So that there are a lot of external things will also change. So it is related to personal development, education, training, which never ends. So therefore, there's a saying in English, Marathi is it, in fact, I'll translate for you. It says that every human being is a student for the lifetime. Manushya ha ayushya bharasati vidyarthi asto, because we keep on learning from many things around us. We may be learning from our friend. We may be learning from our younger brother or sister as well. Or we may be learning from your sons and daughters also later, as I learn some things from my son. So it is not that you have to sit in front and then you teach, then only you learn. So there is one method of training which HR students should know, that the training is called as training or learning by observation. So all the small kids, they always love and love to see and love to get the things known by training, because their growth is expected to be happening. So you have to keep yourself developing, educating and training, which is an unending process. So it doesn't happen that you stop and you can say, no, now I have got my PhD, I don't have to learn anything. Let me tell you very honestly, all the research papers which I have written so far, there are around 50. All those I have written after my PhD. Before PhD, there were no such research papers which I have published. So learning started after completion of PhD. So it is with reference to education, but with reference to your day-to-day routine also. When you join your company, then there are a lot of things where you are expected to make a growth in your career. If you want to go to the next higher level of your promotion, then you need to learn something. There is a principle which is very famous. All the management students must know. They say it as a Adams, Peters principle. It's called as a Peters principle. So this principle says that you can reach to the level of your incompetency. Now, if you're say at level number 4 and you want to go to level number 5, you have to learn something new to go to this position. Otherwise, you cannot. So for making your own growth, you will have to learn, take education so that you are eligible to go to level number 5. Otherwise, according to Peter principle, you can rise to the level of your incompetency. You're competent only up to this. Here you are incompetent, so you can rise only up to this level. That is the meaning. So this is directly related to your growth and your learning, education, training. You might have to do some kind of extra courses. Suppose you join in HR and your company is using all ERP and SAP software. So you need to know and you need to learn HR analytics. Likewise, analytics is coming up a big way nowadays. I think some of you may be having analytics as a specialization. So analytics is a future. So if you do not know that, then definitely you won't be able to grow and you won't be able to sustain. So you have to keep on learning, keep on training yourself, keep on doing additional courses, keep on learning some new technologies, keep on using some new machineries. Suppose a person is working and he's working in a typical older manufacturing machine. Engineers might be knowing this. That machine is called a lathe machine. And if the company decides that this machine is to be replaced by CNC machines, what those are called as an industry, computerized numerically controlled machine. So the worker is able to work on that new CNC machine only if he has learned, he has developed himself, he has taken education and training on how to operate the new machine. If he doesn't work or if he doesn't get himself trained, then he will remain at the same older level where he was just a worker on the lathe machine. And learning or training or education is such which never ends. That is what law of karma says. Fifth law says law of responsibility. So you have to take the ownership for everything. You will come across, let me make you mark my words, you will come across such kind of words very often in your working places where people are saying, no, it is not my responsibility. I thought he is supposed to do. So when you are making such kind of comment, what you're doing, you are not following the law of responsibility. So you have to take the ownership for everything. You have been given some responsibility. You have been given some task. You have been assigned to do particular duties. So there is one such thing which I mentioned yesterday also called a JD, job description. So job description will clearly mention what you are supposed to do as you're holding that position. And if you are not accountable for that, you're just doing, in bad words, TP in the organization. TP is time pass. So you're not honestly doing what you're supposed to do because you're not taking the responsibility of what is given to you. So you have to take responsibility. So the part which you play in every customer interaction, that matters a lot. So when a customer is coming and when we say that there's a satisfied customer, the customer will be, yeah? Somebody wants to ask something? Okay. So the customer will be satisfied only when you have taken the responsibility. Suppose a customer comes to, again, I'll continue the same example, say 2-wheeler or 4-wheeler showroom for servicing of his vehicle. And then if you as a representative of the service person, if you cannot sort out his queries, and every time you will say, I do not know, actually there is one more person who comes and just wait and then let him come and then he will be able to answer it. In this case, you are not taking the responsibility. So your customer will always be unhappy. He will not have proper interaction with you. Customer satisfaction graphs will go down. Your performance will go down. And there is every possibility that you will have to leave the organization. So you have to take wherever you work, irrespective of what type of organization, manufacturing mein kaam karo, services mein, hotel, hospitality, hospital, kahi bhi, you have to take the responsibility of what is assigned to you. You should never, there's a phrase in standard English says, passing the buck. Means you should not pass the negative things to somebody else. When something negative happens, you don't treat yourself as responsible to somebody else who's responsible. Whereas when something positive comes out, I am the only one because of which this has happened. That philosophy we should not be working and using. So that is law of karma and law of responsibility. Law of connection. This is what I think we all of us know. The best example could be WhatsApp, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook. These are all operated based on law of connection. So you have to remain connected with the people, although the past you, the present you, and the future you may seem to be entirely different. They are still all you. So you may be recollecting your school days or college days, how you were. You might have been very shy student. You must have been very probably obedient student. Now just see what you are there today, and you will have to see what you're going to be there in the future. Even within yourself, you know that you are the same. But then what we are doing to other people is a kind of face which we show to the people, which is different than what we really are. So in short, talking about this particular law of connection, irrespective of what you had been, irrespective of what you are today, and irrespective of what you're going to be there in the future, you will remain the same. And with that context, you have to keep in touch with all the people around. And that will improvise your business, that will improvise your turnover, and that will improvise your relationship as well. So this is applicable to the businesses. Recommendations come from the past customers. Your reputation is a sum of your past actions. So finance people will agree with me that goodwill is something which is considered even on a balance sheet. So that though it is not a actual financial terminology representation, but then that is considered on the balance sheet as on the positive side, or it is treated as an asset. Goodwill is treated as an asset. It's only because of the connection which we maintain with the customers. It is again something like we call it as callback customer, or the customer who is coming to you, or loyal customer, what we say. If I'm purchasing, say, a four-wheeler, then next time when I want to sell this and purchase something new, I will purchase the same brand. That loyalty could be there if those manufacturing people, with reference to even earlier principle, those people are in contact with each other, in contact with you, then you are likely to be loyal to that company. So it's only the connection which is likely to make you happen and behave in that way. Seventh is law of force or focus. So you have to do a lot of things. You have to be pro at multitasking. The inclination to do everything at once is often just shows us down. So the law of force says that you cannot apply your energy towards two things simultaneously, and our days are full of distraction. Now this has got certain psychological base. The study says that every human being, you and me or anybody, every normal human being I'm talking about, can have around 6,400 thoughts in a day. Even when you're sleeping, the kind of dreams which are coming to you, those are nothing but the thoughts which are there in your mind. So otherwise, when you're awake also, you're aware about what kind of thinking you are having. Now, when this 2 hours lecture is going on, I'm sure that whenever I give you some example, your thoughts go to that place. Supposing I had given you just an example of two-wheeler servicing, you might have definitely recollected some incidents in your life when you had some very bad service given by somebody in your two-wheeler, and then your thoughts are lingering there. So this particular law of karma says that you cannot focus, or you cannot concentrate on two things at a time. But of course, this law is made to a greater extent is truth from biology. But then your generation, I think all of you must be somewhere around 23, 24, less than 25. So your generation is such that you have the natural ability of doing multitasking. So you can do 2-3 works at a time. That has been proven. I had attended one conference where it was proved by medical science that every person who's born after 1995, I guess most of you are belonging to that particular family, born after 1995. So you people are born with 2 additional genes. This is proven in medical science. You are born with additional genes so that you can do multitasking. And this is an invention in medical science. Everybody, whether the person is born in a slum area or a very rich family, like politician's family, everyone, irrespective of his family background, parents' background, is born with 2 additional genes so that you understand, you can do multiple things and you can understand the electronic gadgets. Now, a very simple example for this is that the handset which you're using. Now, if you have some small kid in your house, then he would be able to operate this handset without even going to the school. The small child has not even gone to a KG, but then still he would be able to go to that folder inside, and then he would retrieve exactly the video what he wanted to watch. So this is something which has been God gifted, but still when you are doing multitasking, when one work you are doing more forcefully, it is proven that the remaining work, remaining concentration will go comparatively down. I'll give you one more simple example. You know, in traffic, there is a rule that when you're driving, maybe four-wheeler or two-wheeler, you will find very commonly this kind of a picture on the road. The person is holding the mobile like this. I hope you're seeing my window. So, and the mobile is here and he's driving. This is not allowed because when you're listening on a mobile, your eyes are there on something. You're trying to find out. When talking to somebody like this, you're trying to find out some address, and then you see the building which is going where you want to go. And you will go forward, go ahead of that building. You finish up with the call, and then you recollect, "Arey, wo building to piche reh gaya." It's only because the law of focus gets operated there. When your focus is more on your hearing side, your vision will become comparatively weak. Therefore, while driving, mobiles are not allowed, because it is proven that majority of the accidents happen when people are talking on the mobile. You can see that if somebody in front of you is driving very slow, 110% is talking on a mobile, because he cannot focus on driving and talking on a mobile simultaneously. He might turn on right hand side or left hand side without showing any indication, because his touch sense goes down when he's concentrating again more on hearing. This is a very common thing. So it is proven by, with due respect to that medical fact, that you cannot concentrate on too many things at a time. So you have to be giving full attention. You have to have devotion, and you have to be giving devotion to the customers to serve their needs. If you understand a customer properly, try to understand the customer need, focus more on, concentrate more, and try to understand him, then only you can sort out the problem. While talking to a customer, simultaneously you are playing on a mobile. Ha, yes, bolo. Nahi, wo actually nahi hai. This cannot happen because you are not focusing on your customers. So you have to do it. And handsets or mobile internet technology is a big way hurdle to being yourself focused. There are such kind of apps. Now, for example, this handset has got, I don't know, it is an inbuilt app. So now I have, while showing to you, I have lifted this handset for 3 times. When it was kept on the floor or maybe a bed next to me, I lifted it up and showing it to me. Again, I kept it and lifted it, showing it to me. At 10 o'clock at night, I get a message on this that in your day from 6 o'clock till 10 o'clock, you have lifted the handset for 124 times. You were on WhatsApp for 29 minutes. You were on calls for, so it will give me the summary of entire thing. And that's what we are talking about, focus. So if you focus more, if you're focusing more on WhatsApp right now, without listening to my session, then you will not understand what I'm talking, because you can focus more only on one thing, which is there in your hands. 8th law of karma is giving and hospitality, which we have spoken to a greater extent in a different way. So you have to be selfless, you have to be practicing, and practicing what you preach means whatever you say, you must be practicing. Say, for example, if you say we must respect elders, so you should be respecting. So walk the talk, what is called as in English. म्हणजे जे तुम्ही बोलता तेच तुम्ही करता. So some of our best referrals come from helping customers solve a problem. Even when extra time or expense was necessary, you have to do it. So best referral, which I just now mentioned in 2-3 slides before, callback customer or a repeat customer or a loyal customer is likely to have you only because you followed all your commitments. So you were selfless, you were practicing what you were talking to him, and you walk the talk. It's giving in hospitality. The law of here and now. See, this law has come from, though it is law of karma, it is very famous words in Bhagavad Gita, which will be coming up in short while from now. It says that you have to be always in the present, not thinking about the past, not thinking about what is going to happen in the future. So when you are there in the present, so you don't need to think about what has happened in the past. You don't need to worry about what is going to happen in the future. You just keep honestly doing what you're doing at present. And that will make you get better and better day by day, and your future will also be better. It may happen that in your past, you might have a very bad early life. You may have a very sorrowful school and college days. You may had a lot of difficulties, financial difficulties, relational difficulties during college days. So if you keep on lingering those thoughts in your present, you cannot concentrate with reference to law number 7. You cannot concentrate on what you're doing. So you're likely to make a hodgepodge of things what you're doing, and your future is also likely to be in danger. So this point says that you have to be following the law of here and now. What I'm doing right now. Now all of you are attending this class, and since you're not allowed to, rather from bandwidth perspective, you are not allowed to or asked to switch on your videos and keep yourself on mute. So I'm not sure whether you are here and now, or you are thinking, अरे कब अभी कितना टाइम है, 6:30 8 बजे तक अभी ये लेक्चर अटेंड करना है. And simultaneously, I'm sure that some of you might be going through, ठीक है, इसको on कर दिया, and you are on WhatsApp, because you are not here and now. You might be planning your day. You might send some kind of message. You will say, oh, एक assignment करना है, ठीक है. So simultaneously, you might be doing there while attending these lectures. So that shouldn't happen. So whatever you're doing, you should be fully concentrating on what you're doing. You should be here and now. You should always be in the present. This is a philosophy which is given by many of such seer and monk people. They will always say, beta, future के बारे में मत सोचो, past के बारे में भी मत सोचो, present में रहो. So you won't be disconnected when we are interacting with the customer. That is with reference to customer interaction. When the customer is talking to you, you're thinking something what has happened to you when early in the morning you were leaving your house and then you had a fight with your parents. Don't think of that. Don't think what is going to happen when you go back in the evening. Be in the present, listen to the customer, complete that task. And then when you go home, you can again, there is something called a switch on and switch off. You can again start with that quarrel again. Don't think what is going to happen tomorrow. Don't think what has happened yesterday. Be in present. And as I mentioned, in Bhagavad Gita, this particular verse is very vivid. It says that Vedaham samatitani vartamanani charjana. Bhavishyani cha bhutani. Bhavishya means future. Bhutani means past. Bhavishyani cha bhutani mam tu vedana kasyan. Means you do not know what is going to be your future. Can anybody guarantee me that you will definitely become CEO of some company? Definitely not. So you do not have your future in your hands. You are not responsible for what has happened to you in the past, the kind of family in which you're born, the culture in which you're born, the kind of people you are around. You don't have choices. Did you have a choice of selecting your parents? Definitely no. Did you have a choice of going to a particular school or being in a particular society? You wanted to be in some very high-risk society, but you're not. So past is something which is pre-decided. Future is something which you're supposed to make. It doesn't mean that you should not have aims. That is what we're talking about, your future. But you're not sure whether you will achieve those aims or not. But if you concentrate on what you're doing today, then there is every possibility that you will achieve what you want to achieve in the future. So don't think about future. Just work on in that direction. Just have some goals. Try to concentrate more on what you're doing today. Then your future is definitely going to be more prosperous. Law of change is again one of the most important thing which should happen to each one of us, rather which is happening to each one of us. If you have found yourself experiencing the same undesirable situation over and over again, this may be due to law of change in action. It is a universe way of nudging you to learn a lesson. So if I had given you an example of learning something new, it is again with reference to change. Why do you change your handsets? Because the technology is changing. There was some 2G, now it is 4G, 5G is also coming up. Then there was a handset where it didn't have any kind of internal memory. Now the handset has got 120 GB. So there are certain things which are changing around us. So we have to keep ourselves updated. If you do not, then again, as I have given you the example of CNC machine and lathe machine, you will remain there. You will not learn something new. You will not be progressing. So if you want to make your future brilliant, you have to accept that there is a law which is called as law of change, which says that change is the only permanent thing in the world. Very thoughtful sentence. Change is the only permanent thing in the world. What was there in 2 years before is not there today. After 2 years, something different will come up. So nobody has thought of that there is some instrument called as mobile phones will come up and people would be able to talk to each other across the world without any physical connection between them. This has come up here. I remember when I was doing my engineering in COEP, 1985, we had only one computer in entire COEP. Now you have this as a computer in your hand. So nobody had thought of when I was I took the admission for engineering. Nobody has thought of that after 35 years, this computer which we are seeing right now is going to be there in everybody's hand. That computer in 1985 was costing 3.5 lakh rupees. You can just imagine a conversation or a kind of value that time. We had a annual fees of 336 rupees. 336, which will be your bill at any one point of time in any hotel today, only for your tea, coffee, and some kind of snacks. 336 rupees was annual fees. And that time the computer was costing 3.25 lakhs. You can just imagine, COIP being a government college, they could afford to purchase one computer. That computer was having 512 MB hard disk. And that was kept in a small room. And we were made to look at that computer from a small glass window. वो ICU के patient को हम देखते हैं ना, small glass window से वैसा. So we were, if one person was supposed to be standing near the mirror, our teacher used to stand next to us and used to show from that glass window. उसको CPU बोलते हैं, उसको keyboard बोलते हैं, उसको screen बोलते हैं, display बोलते हैं, etc. But then those things have drastically changed in last 35 years. There are a lot of changes which has happened in last 35 years. The subject which you people are learning, human resource management, when I did my MBA, the concept was not there, 97. There was personal management. Human resource management concept was not there. Now I have got PhD in human resource management. Why? Because we decided to change ourselves. So you have to keep in the mind that you cannot remain the same person throughout the lifetime. You have to keep on changing the responsibilities, the new things to be learned, the new technology to be learned. You have to keep on adjusting with the change. It is you who is going to adjust with the change. The circumstances will not adjust. If you are not able to operate this handset, then nothing can be done by outside. So you will remain behind as compared to others. You can think about your parents or maybe grandparents. They are not able to so comfortably use such kind of handsets. Whereas you are very swift in using handset, typing speed dekho uska, then you will go to swipe the screens and then you will go to that particular video immediately because you have learned and you have accepted that the change is there. Now, if you change this handset and purchase a new handset, I think hardly 1 or 2 hours are sufficient enough for you to learn a new change handset technology, because some handsets have got left button on this side, some handsets got left button on this side. So your earlier handset got left on this side and now it is on this side. So it is very difficult to adjust, but then now the handsets are come up that you can decide where, on which side you want to have this particular button. So it is trying to make and adjust yourself with the change which is happening. But otherwise, also you are supposed to learn from the experience and take actions in order to change. Otherwise, you will remain level of incompetency, which I was explaining. So you have to keep on learning, keep on changing yourself for the entire lifetime. This very nice sentence by Swami Vivekananda. He says, one feels bored when one doesn't progress. Whenever you have such kind of words, you are saying to your friends, "Are bahut bore ho gaya." Bahut bore ho gaya kyun? You're not doing anything different than what you're doing earlier. So you will feel bored when you do not progress. Progress is not necessarily progress card. When you do not do anything new, when you are not doing something additional, then you are likely to feel bored. So we have to keep on changing ourselves. Second last is law of patience and reward. We have been taught by our parents always have patience. That's what I was also talking about. Don't think about future. Just prepare for it. Just take precautions. Just learn something new to go into the direction of future. You're going to the place on a particular managerial job and you are very much satisfied with where you are as a junior level job. So you don't want to take additional responsibility. You don't have any plans and futuristic goals of going to or becoming a CEO. You will remain there as a CEO. But then if you want to go to that level, you have to have a lot of patience. And then only you can get your reward. So hard work pays, that's what it says. So time and persistence, not giving up, celebrating yourself. These are certain things which will make you increase your patience. So whenever you get something in that direction, you should always celebrate. Now, celebration doesn't really mean what do we understand by celebration. Celebration का आजकल का मतलब है कहीं तो भी friends को बुलाओ, कोई तो भी hotel में जाओ, party करो. That doesn't really mean celebration. Celebration may be eating a small chocolate when you achieve something because it gives a good feeling to you. It is again proven by medical science. Dark chocolate will improvise your mental health. So you can just have a piece of dark chocolate which will help you to increase your patience, again proven by psychology. So patience you have to wait for certain things to happen. The miracles do not happen across or over the night. From zero to hero, that happens only in movies, but not in real life. So you have to have patience and you have to keep on working hard work, or nowadays we call it smart work. So you have to do a smart work to reach to the next level. And I guess last law of karma is law of significance and inspiration. So we have to give value to the customers. We have to consider the customers as human beings, and we have to understand that our business is because of them. So we have to be significant to them. We have to give value to them. We have to inspire them. And we also should be getting inspired from the customers. Then only the business will be growing. So that is law of significance and inspiration. These are all same laws written on another one slide. These are few more websites where you will be able to find out all the same things. 12 laws of karma, as it is said. 12 laws of karma. Then coming to the major part of this course is Indian heritage scriptures. Indian heritage scriptures are all the books which are written. Those are Ramayana, Mahabharata, then Kautilya Arthashastra, Vedas, Upanishads. So what we are supposed to learn, and how are you going to connect with the business management? That is the next part in this particular course. So principles of self-management and governance are found in scriptures like Veda, Upanishads, Gita, Mahabharata, etc. This I'll skip because it's likely to come up in. This also I'll skip for the want of time. Production and consumption, because this summary, I'll just tell you the summary of this particular slide. It says that whatever is required by the consumer, only that should be produced. A simple example for this can be whenever you go to any hotel or whenever you sit for eating, your parents might always be telling you, "Jevda khaise tevdas ge." Do not waste the thing. It is because the production is made according to the requirement of the consumption. If you're producing more, talking about businesses, if your production is more and if your consumption of your sales is less, definitely a day will come where you will have to give heavy discount and the companies might have to suffer losses because there is not that much amount of consumption with reference to the production what you're making. So your production, talking about typical OSCM, operation, supply chain and production, people will understand this better. So your production should be always targeted to the customer. You have to decide what is going to be the consumption for my product in next 3 years, next 6 months, next 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, and then accordingly I have to decide the production. Now this is true with all the businesses, all manufacturing units, including say automobile vehicles industry, or it may be FMCG. So what kind of production do you have definitely depends upon the consumption. So therefore marketing people do a lot of marketing analytics and they would come to know what is the demand for their product. And then based on a demand, you should have to have a production. So production is always depend on the consumption. And that's what this principle says. In early days, in olden days, the production was done only the amount of, that amount of material is required by the society. Now, I don't know whether you have heard this or not, but then earlier there was a system called as a barter system because the currency, rupees, then dollars, pound, this kind of currency was not available. Rather, nobody has thought of making the currencies or monies or notes, and you can exchange and you can get the goods. So that time, if I am a producer of say wheat, I will produce wheat at my place and I don't produce rice. So there is somebody in the society who will produce rice. So I will exchange my wheat with the rice. So if I, for my entire month, I'm requiring, let's say 50 kgs of wheat and say 12 kgs of rice. I will take 12 kg from the rice person. I'll give him 12 kgs of wheat. Somebody is producing sugar. Of course, sugar is not produced processed, but then somebody is producing sugar cane, let's say. So I'll give him 10 kgs of wheat. In exchange, I'll take sugar cane so that I can have something sweets being made in my house. So that was a concept at that time. So there was, again, this a balance of production and consumption maintained by this system called as a barter system. And now the things have come up, the currencies have come, and then we will be always buying what do we want. Again, see what has changed. Now you go to a mall, which is a very common thing nowadays. You go to a mall like Big Bazaar or D-Mart, where you had gone there to purchase, let's say, soap, bathing soap. You want to purchase only bathing soap and you happen to go into D-Mart or Reliance Mart or whatever, where you have got these groceries on all items at one place. Then when you come out, you will recollect, I was supposed to purchase only soap, which might be costing 50 rupees, but now you have spent around 1,200 rupees unnecessarily. Why? Because that consumption was not required, but people are making you to purchase. Gone are the days where you used to have only one grocery shop in your nearby location. I remember my school days, or when I was a child, there used to be only one or two grocery shops in the entire city, or in the, I used to stay in a small village. So in the entire village, there was only one shop. So if we wanted to go and purchase some soap or some oil or some daily routine material, he will say, "नहीं वो नहीं है, ये है, तो ये ले लो." So because that was the only choice available. Now you got 50 soaps displayed. You unnecessarily keep on taking those soaps and putting it in your basket, and you purchase it, because the consumption is made because the production is already available. The production is not done targeted to the amount of consumption which is likely to be there. So there is a lot of imbalance in production and consumption. You might be hearing a lot of around, it has been proven 38% of food is wasted, which is manufactured in the hotels. And who are responsible for that? We are responsible. When we order, we don't eat full. Rather, in some of the communities or some of the religions, they say that we are not supposed to finish the entire plate. We have to keep something in the plate. Because if you finish the entire plate, असं म्हटलं जातं की म्हणजे तुम्ही फार आधाशी कधी खायला मिळालं नाही का म्हणून तुम्ही सगळी प्लेट संपली. You have to always keep something in the plate, but then that is wasting the food. And 38% is a proven figure in India. In most of the advanced countries, Western countries, this percentage is very much high. It's again showing the imbalance between production and consumption. So you're not consuming what is the amount of production which is done. Again, a very simple routine life example. Your mother might be asking you in the evening, "तू आज काय खाणार? किती पोळ्या खाणार आहेस? किती भात खाणार आहेस का?" So accordingly, she will make the production. So there has to be always a balance between production and consumption. Otherwise, it is going to endanger the environmental balance, ecological balance. And that's what these next 2-3 slides, which I've already spoken, will be talking about production and consumption. So you can read this later. I'll be circulating this to you and keep explaining each and every one. Yeah. This also I can skip. Yeah, there's one more concept in managing your finances, which is here. So our ancient laid down 4 avenues. Avenues means path. How do you utilize the wealth? Supposing you are earning 1 lakh rupees in a month, per month. So 1/4 should be used for your personal use and supporting the family, means 25,000. Another 1/4 means another 25,000 for charitable and religious purposes. A third quarter means another 25,000 over living things like animals, birds, etc. So you should be doing that yadne, if you can remember. And the remaining 4th, you should be supporting the state. That means the society you should be supporting. You should be giving out. So if you just see, there's only 1/4, only 25,000 out of 1 lakh you should be using for yourself and your family. Rest 75% you are supposed to donate or use for some kind of social work, which I don't think that anybody in today's world is doing. I have seen, including myself, I just donate around 10% of my salary every month, but remaining 90%. So this really doesn't actually work. So ideologically proven by or suggested by our mythological facts is that you should be using only 1/4 for your personal purposes supporting the family. Of course, these things have changed with the technology and with a lot of financial innovations coming up. These percentages might be changing here and there, but at least it is expected that 75% you can use for yourself, and 25% at least you should be donating, using for the cause of society, using to develop the state and develop the nation. And that's what it is expected. Again, with reference to production and consumption. These are few sentences with reference to that. If money helps a man to do good to others, it is of some value, but if it is not, it is simply mass of evil, and sooner it got rid of, the better. So Swami Vivekananda said as, don't accumulate money unnecessarily. You might have been knowing about Swami Vivekananda. He didn't have any kind of property. Ek 500 crore ka property kar liya. You have never heard of him and all such kind of people in the past, because they never give. That was the first slide which we started with this particular subject. Money is having the least importance. What is most important is your character, the knowledge what you have, and your behavior. So money is to be used for the benefit of others. Otherwise, it is only mass of evil. Again, with reference to yesterday's discussion, the politicians today is a good example. They've got crores of rupees of money with them, but then when it comes to somebody dying of corona, no politician will take out from his own pocket and give it to them. They are using for their own purposes because it creates a mass of evil. Then money does not bring sufferings, stupidity does. Sadhguru, you might be watching his YouTube channel. So it doesn't bring suffering. Money does not actually bring suffering, but the stupidity of using or where to put the money, that will be putting you into the danger. Sins can be destroyed by charity. If you give, the whole wealth of the world will be yours. So the more you give, the more you get it back. I can tell you from my own experience. So you have to keep on spending the money. God will give you, or some power. Some of you may not be believing on God. So some power will give you that money back. And let me tell you, as I've said from my own experience, that you keep on expending and money will keep on flowing to you. The more you keep the money to yourself, you will always have got scarcity of money. So keep expending. Of course, expending doesn't mean that you should expend on parties and unnecessary expenses. You should be expending at the proper places, and the money will definitely flow into you. The same thing, it speaks about economics of giving. The more you give, the more you get back. The less you give, the less you get back. So that is what this economics of giving says. All religions are talking about, these are 6 enemies which every individual human being has. Some of you might have control on some of these, but then in general, every one of us has got these 6 foes or 6 enemies. Karma is desired, material desired, 6. Then this bodily needs, that is all desire speaks about. And even krodh, anger, moha or lobha is greed or delusion, madha is pride, and matsar is envy, ahankar is ego. You can just have a thought on this. Whenever you are sitting in a calm place, or maybe when you're traveling alone in a car, there's no one talking to you, there's no one to disturb you. Think on these 6 things. These are called as shad ripu. Shad means 6, ripu means enemies. So there are 6 enemies of all of us. One is desire. You definitely have. Why do you get married? Because this desire is there. Then anger is very common. You will find it everywhere around us. Then greed and delusion is again very common. Mad is pride, is a typical way of behavior in the society. I am always feeling proud ki I am so and so, I am so and so, main itna bada hu. Who are you to talk to me like that? It is your pride or ego. Pride is using the power. Ego is thinking yourself always great and talking about it. And envy is why somebody else is going ahead of me. Why can't I have that particular position? Why can't I have that car? Why can't I stay in that particular society where that person is staying? So envy is again one feeling which is very common since our childhood days. So these are the 6 things which every human being is born with. So we are supposed to have a proper control on all these. Then only you can do something in your life, which is of course very difficult. It's not so easy to control on your desires, control on your anger, which is supposed to be the most difficult thing to do. I do conduct a lot of stress management and anger management training for managers, and those are all more at the senior level. You'll always find your senior yelling at you because he's angry. Aisa kyun kiya? But then you have done it and he will get angry. It will increase his blood pressure. So you should be keeping it in the mind that you should always be having the control of your anger on yourself. That is one of the best difficult things to control and one of the most necessary things to control. So if you can control your anger, rest all things are supposed to be very much easier, controllable in your hands. If you are able to control your sexual desires, material nature, then you are able to control rest all things. So the first 2 are more important to control. If you can control these 2, rest 4 can be within your control. If you cannot control the first, rest all things are out of your control. That part will come in Bhagavad Gita later as well. So it is said that there was one story. Cherokee is an ethnic person, a sadhu kind of thing from North America. He's talking to his grandson. He's talking that there is always a battle within us ourselves. And this battle is between 2 wolves. Wolves means so one wolf is evil, that it is anger, envy, jealousy, sorrow, regret, greed, arrogance, etc. And the other is good. The other wolf is good, that is joy, peace, love, hope, etc. So there is always a fight going within our mind between these 2 wolves. So the grandfather asks, who or which wolf wins? So the grandfather replied, the one which you feed. Tumi jala jasta khau ghalal. If you make this wolf, evil wolf to feed, he will win. If you make the good wolf to feed, he will win. Means the more you do all such kind of things, joyous, peaceful, lovable, hopeful, serenity, humility, empathy, generosity. So the more you do such kind of things, that wolf will win. Whereas the more you develop superiority complex, ego, pride, inferiority, resentful, self-pity, arrogance, greed, regret, sorrow, that wolf will grow and that wolf will win. So it depends on you which wolf is to be fed, and accordingly that one will win. Now, from heritage, different heritage scriptures, talking about Vedas, these are the learning from Vedas. You need to earn wealth by deeds of glory. A man shall strive to win wealth by righteous path, means only pious path. One who gets up early in the morning gets the treasure. You will definitely get a treasure today and yesterday also. One shall produce fair wealth for today and tomorrow. These are all basic learning. These will be explained later. Now, learning from Ramayana. Now, we all know that Ramayana story. I don't think that anybody is there in this class who doesn't know Ramayana story. So what is to be learned? Rama has this basic philosophy that mother and motherland are the greater than the heaven. Janani Janmabhumisha Swargadapi Gariyasi. Swargadapi means beyond heaven. These are our mother and motherland. That means your country. So you should always feel proud about your country. You should always feel proud about your motherland. You should always be serving your motherland. So your own mother, biological mother, and your country is the greatest, and it is greater than any heaven. So don't think about going to the heaven and doing a lot of unnecessary things in your life, but then you just very honestly devote your mother and your motherland. And that's what Rama has done in his entire life. So he has listened to Kaushalya, his mother, that Vishwamitra, Vasishta or Vishwamitra, I'm sorry, I'm getting confused. So he is his guru and he takes Rama to him and he requests Dashratha to let Rama go with him. So Rama and Lakshmana go to this ashram and where they learn. So that time Kaushalya says, you can go. And Rama listens to mother, and he is supposed to be one of the best and the most loved king in the entire history of or say mythological happenings. So he was most loved king by the Praja Jalapan Manto, because he was giving importance to mother and motherland. So learning from Ramayana is you should be goal oriented. When you might have heard that there was a war between Rama and Ravana, all that whatever war between Rama and Ravana, it is said to be happening in only last 6 months of 14 years of Ram, Sita and Lakshman stay in jungle. The last 6 months, all these things happened. Otherwise, first 13 years and 6 months, Ravana was not at all in the picture. So in last 6 months, that fight happened, and the only goal was for Rama is to get his wife escaped from Ravana. That was the only goal which he, of course, achieved. So ascertaining the goals and job to be done, getting mentally prepared for it, then having a right plan, training, analysis, and time management. I think all the fighting plans or the plans of the battle between Rama and Ravana could be the best example of having a right plan. He took the help of all the monkeys you might be knowing. So the monkeys, through monkeys, Bali and the other is his brother. So he took the help of them, and then they constructed a bridge which is supposed to be still there between Sri Lanka and India. So he has all the plans very properly. He has planned the entire thing properly. First, he sent Hanumana to meet Ravana and intimate him that you leave my wife, otherwise I'm going to fight against you. But then he didn't listen. Ravana had got two brothers and one sister. Bibhishana was the one who was again on the side of Ramayana. He told him that don't fight with him. He's just like a god. You will never win. But then Ravana was having a lot of ego. And he said that nothing doing, I'll be fighting. Whereas Ram had got a very proper plan to win and a proper winning strategy. Then he trained all the monkey troop. Otherwise, monkeys are not fighters. But then he trained all of them, and then he managed the time well. All the things which are mentioned in Ramayana as far as battle things are concerned, those are all well planned. And then whatever plan is happening, they acted according to that, and the fort was won. Analyzing the strengths and weakness of the competitors. So he was knowing, again, when Ravana died, you might remember, I don't know whether you have seen this serial or not, Ramayana serial, but it is mentioned in Ramayana that Rama was trying to, with the bow and arrow, he used to cut the head of Ravana. Every time when the head used to come down, another head used to get created on his neck. So he was surprise, and he got literally exhausted, cutting every time Ravana's head, and another head used to be there. So Bibhishan, who's Ravana's brother, he was disciple of Rama, and a kind of deceiving to his family members. But then Bibhishana told Rama that his entire life is in his stomach. So you hit the arrow in the stomach, then only you will be able to kill him. So here he was the competitor of Rama. In business perspective, you need to know what your competitor is doing, what are the weaknesses of the competitors, what are the strength of the competitors. If the competitor is having the strength which you do not have, you will have to develop those strengths within you. If the competitor is having certain weaknesses, you have to take the advantage of those weaknesses. And that is the example which I had given. So competitors' weaknesses you must know, and that must be properly used to grow your business. It doesn't mean that you are doing any kind of negative strategies, but then you are taking an advantage of somebody which your competitor does not have and you have got. So your strengths and the competitor's weaknesses, those should be very properly balanced. The same is true with this threats and opportunities. We call this as SWOT analysis: strength, weaknesses, opportunity, and threats. So in businesses, we are always supposed to do that. And what Rama did during that wartime. So he tried to understand strength, weaknesses, competitors, then what are the threats. Ravana had a very big troop and very real warriors. ज्याला आपण मराठीमध्ये योद्धे म्हणतो, खूप मोठे मोठे योद्धे त्यांच्याकडे होते. यांच्याकडे कोण होतं? फक्त monkeys. But then those he has used as a strength, whereas he knew what positive parts Ravana has in his troop, and then he tried to win over by some kind of strategies. Looking for better opportunities always, united goal, work, and unity of command. I think it has been known that Rama is listened by everybody. Sita, then Lakshmana, all his brothers. Bharat was also there. He came to meet Rama in the jungle. He said, no, I'm going to stay with you. He said, nothing doing. You're supposed to go back and take care about our motherland. So he obeyed. So there is not a single character in Ramayana who didn't obey Rama. What we speak about unity of command. Here in our routine days, you will not listen to your boss. If he's telling you something, you will come back to your colleagues and you will talk bad about the boss, because you do not want to follow the command which is given. And if you follow the command, you have to strongly believe on your boss, your immediate supervisor, and then the work will be definitely done, because he's having some kind of experience. That's why he's asking you to do that. So united goal work, see, the entire team of monkeys could win because the goal was same. Everybody worked towards a common goal. That's what we have learned in first year management fundamentals. Your goal and your organization's goals must be same. Then only you can excel in whatever you're doing. Then from management perspective, Ravana was a bad manager. He did not listen to his subordinates. So there was a lot of mismanagement. He failed to maintain good relations even with his own brother, as I mentioned just now, Bibhishan. And Rama was a good manager. He listened to his subordinates. He always used to take care of his people, treats everyone equally, has good relations with everyone, clarity about the goal. So all these are the characteristics of a good manager, and these are the characteristics of bad manager. Then this I've already told. He has gone to Vanvas, that means staying in the jungle for 14 years, and ended up connecting with less people. So that is not what is expected. So every CEO or a marketing manager should go into the market which is unidentified and untapped, and there you will grow your more business. There is one very famous case of this Bata company. There is the representative of some another shoes manufacturing company went to an island, and then he came back and he told to his seniors, sir, there in that island nobody is using shoes and chappals, and no footwear nobody is using. So our product doesn't have any market there. And it is said that a Bata company representative went there and he saw the same thing, that nobody on that entire island is using footwear or chappals and shoes. Then he came back and told to the Bata seniors, sir, पूरे island पे एक भी आदमी चप्पल और shoes नहीं पहनता है, मतलब पूरा island is our market. See, looking at the same situation, first person looked at it as a zero market because nobody is using chappals and shoes. The same another company person sees that the entire market is there, so they have to develop the habits. Were we using handsets earlier? But handsets has become a need nowadays, so that need is created by whom? By the CEOs and marketing managers of all these handsets companies. So as a top level manager, you should always try to identify the market which is still unutilized, and that we have learned from Ramayana. The alliance with Sugriv, who beat Bali. coupled with out-of-the-box unconventional army, that's monkeys. We could never think about monkeys use as armies, but then that's what he has done. Eventually leads to Sita getting traced and Ravana get vanquished. So mergers and alliances. So you should be knowing in a business what kind of mergers and alliances you are doing, what kind of types you are doing with your businesses. Those should be properly studied, and properly identifying the strings of your alliances. You should be doing such kind of mergers and acquisitions. There are a lot of mergers and acquisitions happening nowadays. This Union Bank is merged with Corporate Bank and so on and so forth. So those are all considering the possible market, considering the positive, negative sides of both the things, and then the actually implications of those mergers and alliances, which will develop a mutual trust and respect. Better market share will definitely have when two banks come together. And there might be some big, huge objectives which could be achieved by simple, frugal or economical resources. By combining the wealth together, big corporates coming up will have more better worth. And that's what Ramana has suggested. Then CEOs should, or you should always have loyalty to your company. Then you should always respect women from the team members. That is been taught to us by our Hindu mythology and this mythological scriptures. So you should always be respecting the women in your team members, because even I'll be coming up to that point in Bhagavad Gita also it is mentioned that women should always be respected, because the entire Mahabharata started because the women was disrespected. Coming to the next point is management lessons from Mahabharata. What do we learn from Mahabharata? When there was the war was supposed to be fought, both the teams, Kaurava and Pandava representatives, representing Kaurava was Duryodhana. He went to Lord Krishna. Arjuna also went to Lord Krishna. Lord Krishna said, what do you want from me? So Duryodhana said, I want your large army, where he gave importance to quantity. And Arjuna asked that I want only you, because he was known for quality and effective manager. So whenever you are recruiting somebody, don't recruit by the quality of a person. Don't hire the people by the quantity, but hire the people by the quality which they have. So Krishna's wisdom only Arjuna selected, and that made Arjuna to win over Duryodhana, whereas Duryodhana had almost 2.5 times more troop and more warriors with him as compared to Arjuna. So you should be selecting wisely. Then detachment from the fruits of work is always suggested by Bhagavad Gita, that for generation of excellence and with dedication, and not keeping the promotion and commission in the mind. So whatever you do, do not always think from the perspective of promotion. The promotion will anyway happen. Keep on learning. The next day will come where you have got a promotion due and there's no one like you in the organization, and then you will get promoted automatically without you doing any kind of extra effort. So you keep on doing, keep on continuing doing, keep on learning something new. Do not think about the future. The future will definitely will come to you. So don't think about the fruits. That's what Mahabharata or Bhagavad Gita says. See, Bhishma said to Yudhishthira, Bhishma is one of the oldest character and who was, of course, on the side of Kauravas, but then he, of course, at the end of the war, lost the war. So he said that rulers should be like good householders. Rulers mean the king, and those should be like big kings, big trees, and these trees should be giving a kind of shade to all the people in the society or in his kingdom. The neither mother, nor father, nor brother, nor wife, nor son, nor the priest is above the law. It's only the dharma or the kind of work which you're supposed to do. And I think that is where the entire Bhagavad Gita started. What was Arjuna? Arjuna was a warrior. And what he did, he decided not to worry, means not to fight. So it is his dharma as a warrior. If you can remember, yesterday I told you there are 4 types of system in society that time. So there was one Brahmin, then Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. So Kshatriya is the person who is supposed to fight. It is his duty for the lifetime. So Arjuna, being Kshatriya, decided not to fight. Then he was going away from dharma, and which is not expected to happen. So there, Lord Krishna has given an advice. Sorry. Lord Krishna given an advice to Arjuna that you follow your dharma. You are born as a Kshatriya. You are born to fight. So you should be fighting for what you are born. Even the king is not considered above the law. That is a preaching from Mahabharata. Leader or manager is the king who governs with equality and impartiality. The king should always be treating everybody with impartiality. He should not be doing any kind of biased activities. See, the world is just like Kurukshetra. Kurukshetra is the place where the war between Kaurava and Pandava was fought. So there is always a Kurukshetra kind of war which is getting in your mind. And it is always a war between good and bad, as I've shown you in some slides earlier. So there are certain representations. Ignorance is Dhritarashtra, who was always thinking that his sons are always true and Arjuna is wrong and the other side is wrong, which he was ignorant about. Then individual soul is treated as Arjuna. That means we as an individual soul. Then indweller, that means inside you is who is Lord Krishna, who will make you behave in a particular way. And that control is in your hand. Lord Krishna was controlling the entire chariot of Arjuna. So he was the controller. So your heart is a controller. So how you think positively, the positive things are likely to get affected, and chariot is your body. So it depends upon the reins of the horses where they're in the hands of Krishna. So your behavior, your body will behave what your heart says. So you have to be training your heart, being positive, and definitely your body will work according to that. If you train your wolf, as I was telling you, if you feed your negative wolf, then only your body will also act accordingly negatively. So, and all the senses, seeing, then hearing, then touching, then smelling and taste. These are the 5 senses which will act as horses. So you're supposed to keep all the senses in your control. And dislike, jealousy, lust, greed, pride, hypocrisy, all those things. Those Shadripus are your enemies. So you should be controlling your enemies. This is possible by controlling your heart, because heart will control your body. And at the end of the day, you'll be controlling your enemies. Well, quickly we'll go through this. We still have 45 minutes, but we'll be able to finish with this. So Bhagavad Gita, as I was telling you, is basic fundamental is there was a fight between 2 cousin families, Kauravas and Pandavas, which we all know. And Pandava had the lead warrior named as Arjuna. Of course, these are the photographs from a mythological serial which some TV channel had. So this is an actor who played the role of Arjuna. So there's the photographs from there. So Arjuna was the lead warrior brother from the Pandavas. And when in the battlefield, he saw his own cousins. Kauravas were his cousins. There were his maternal uncle was there, then his closer relatives were there in front to fight with. There were around 47 lakhs people in the entire fight. And those many people, there were one, say around, if suppose there are one on the other one side, there were 1.5 times on the opponent side. So he saw on the opposite side all his own cousins, own relatives to fight with. And there itself, he was in a dilemma situation, and he was reluctant. And he asked to Lord Shri Krishna that how can I fight with my own cousins, my own brothers and sisters and own siblings, and how can I kill them to win this war? So he got down from the chariot and he said that nothing doing, I'm not going to fight and kill my own people. And that is where Lord Krishna, who was, as I said, the chauffeur driver for Arjuna's this chariot, which you can see in the picture, the Rath has a so he was driving it. And so Lord Krishna, being a god, he advised and persuaded Arjuna to fight, telling him that what he was thinking, how it is negative, futile and unnecessary. And at that time, whatever he told to Lord Krishna, the literature is born out of his advice, is called as Bhagavad Gita. Some of you may be knowing or some of you may not. This entire Bhagavad Gita was told to Arjuna by Lord Krishna on the battlefield, and it took only 45 minutes. Bhagavad Gita is a big, thick book, which I'll just show you. This is how it looks like. And this has got 18 chapters and 700 verses. So I just did a time management calculation. One verse could take around 5 to 6 seconds. So putting all the things together, 700 verses definitely would have been easily possible in 45 minutes. The entire Bhagavad Gita is in Sanskrit. That time people were talking only the Sanskrit as the local language, like we have got Marathi, Hindi, and different states have got their own languages. There was only one language at that time, that was Sanskrit. And people, even a layman or the person who has not learned anything, not gone to any school, was able to speak Sanskrit. It is just like your local language. The people who have not gone to the school can still speak Marathi or their local language, just like that. So Sanskrit was the local language at that time, and the entire Bhagavad Gita was taught to Arjuna in 45 minutes. He could understand. And this Bhagavad Gita was basically in Sanskrit, as I mentioned, that later on it was translated in and looked at it in different ways. This we can skip. And surprisingly, all the management principles and philosophies are found included in Bhagavad Gita, which is written 5,000 years ago, including analytics, which we are saying that it is today's thing or a new thing which is coming in the market. So this is the book which I have written. I'll be sending this book to your institute whenever possible. I had just yesterday only put a message on Director Forum that somebody can come to me and collect these 2 books for free. So where I have written that every verse has got some or the other management principles, starting from your basic Maslow's need hierarchy theory to business analytics, was already available in Bhagavad Gita. Adhyaya 1. Now you will be reading only this blue part. I'll be going very fast. I have to finish up this up. So first chapter, there are 18 chapters. So I have to finish this in 18 minutes. First chapter speaks about Arjuna's dilemma situation. Vishad means a situation of confusion. So the first chapter speaks about team building, because first chapter is speaking about who's on the other side, what were the characteristics of all those warriors, who was expert in what particular type of warfare, war strategy, etc. So they are talking about the team. Now, whenever you are in the businesses, you should always understand who's your team, who's there with you, who are your teammates. According to every individual has got some or the other positive characteristics or qualities in every individual, how you can make proper utilization of the qualities of every individual. That's what first Adhyaya speaks. Then you must know, we have discussed this SWOT analysis of your businesses. If you're into the business, you must know what are the strengths and weaknesses of your competitor. So from marketing perspective, it also speaks about competitor analysis. And that's why Arjuna was not ready to do that. He could see big warriors, known warriors having different kind of skill, which he was not having. So he said that we are poor in this particular part. So how can we fight with when there are so much great warriors on the other side? So competitor analysis is required by all the businesses. He was very much stressed and he has got an anxiety. How can I fight with and kill my own colleagues and my friends and my relatives, basically cousins and all the siblings. So he was under stress and he was under anxiety. Second chapter is a chapter of transcendental, supernatural, divine, inspiring, perfect knowledge. So second chapter speaks about doing the assigned work. Again, you can read the blue part, which is comparatively important as compared to others. So you must be able to do your assigned task. With reference to this, we have discussed today itself that you should be able to complete the task which is given to you. Just take the responsibility. That's what this point is talking about. Success or failure in businesses are likely to be there. It is found by researchers in India that out of 10 new businesses started every year as an entrepreneurial activity on an average, I'm talking about the percentages perspective. So out of 10 businesses started, only 8 to 1 or 2 will get successful, whereas 8 to 9 will go to the dooms and those will not become successful. So you need to understand the businesses, the market, the ability, your ability, the people with you, what kind of business you are into, need for the market. There are many things which will make your business successful or failure. Then you have to do a lot of work-life balance. Today's world has become so much, I won't say imbalance, but then so much demanding. Like this, attending this class at 6 o'clock in the morning is a demand of the market because you have got your exams coming up. There was nobody teaching this particular subject. So you have to learn this entire subject of 45 hours in, I guess, some 15 hours you are trying to do it. And you have to balance your work life and your personal life. Getting up 6 o'clock in the morning is slightly tough task. Kaizen, we have learned somewhere in another subject, Kaizen is step-by-step improvement. You cannot become hero to zero overnight. You have to keep on improvising on yourself. You have to keep on learning. Then work ethics are, you, I think, had a separate subject called as business ethics. So only the ethical businesses are likely to successful. Unethical business, someday or the other will go to the dooms and will close down. Leadership, the most important part in management. So leadership qualities, what all things are there, how a person can become a great leader, and all those characteristics are mentioned in this chapter 2. And one of the most important part, on which a separate act has come up recently. The act is called as POSH, Prevention of Sexual Harassment. That act has come hardly some if I'm mistaken, not some 2012. So 9 years before this act has come as a new act into the market, but then it was already available in Bhagavad Gita, that this should be avoided. And there should be a very strict action and punishment to somebody who's doing sexual harassment at the workplaces. So there's a separate act came up on this, which is already available here. Third chapter speaks about Karma Yoga. When we talk about Bhagavad Gita, this is one verse which all of us know. Karmanye vadikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phale turu mate sangutsa karma. Means you keep on doing your actions, do not expect anything. It does not mean that do your work and don't expect salary. It's not from that context. It is simply keep on improving on yourself, keep on doing the same work again and again, keep on developing a quality in whatever you're doing. One day will come where you will definitely get the fruits of it, you will get the returns of it. So this chapter 3 speaks about knowledge is superior to action. So you have to keep on acquiring knowledge. The action will automatically happen. You have to think about time, input, process, output. That is a law which we follow in management. So for whatever is happening, there is some input, there is some process happen, there is some output. Now this is whatever you are learning is an input. You have to process it in your brain. If you don't process, there will be no output. So processing is also equally important. Then you have to think about strategic policies for your businesses, then IR and absolute policy, industrial relations, your HR and IR perspective. That means rules and regulations. There has to be some rules and regulations. Otherwise, the entire workplace will become haywire and go anywhere in endless directions. So you have to have proper IR and policies. Then environmental balance is green businesses. When today's entire businesses are talking about green businesses, green HR, green marketing, green construction, green education. So what we are doing right now is green education. You must have come to the college, and maybe you must have come on your vehicles. So that has endangered the entire ecological balance because of two-wheeler emission or pollution of your two-wheeler. Then you must have written it on the papers, which would have again wasted the papers. You would have appeared for the examination. You would have taken 36 pages, another supplement. A lot of papers would have been wasted. But now with this, thanks to Corona, to blessing in disguise, that we people are reducing the carbon footprint to a greater extent and balancing the environment to a greater extent, because pages are made up of cutting down the trees. The moment we stop writing, the ecological balance is maintained. Giving an example of green education. Otherwise, this is there in green HR is coming up, green marketing is coming up, green production is coming up, so that you are not endangering the pollution, not creating any kind of pollution because of your business. So that should be taken care of. Then leadership benchmarking, you should be comparing yourself with yourself. This part I spoken yesterday. Then training and development has to happen. You have to keep on learning knowledge, skills, abilities. You have to improvise. Your attitude must be changed, and you must know yourself. You can improvise on your own qualities only when you know that there's something is lagging in you. If you think, no, I am the most superior person on the earth, then you will not learn anything. So you must know what you do not know. You must understand what are the things which are lacking in you, and then you should be developing yourself. Fourth chapter speaks about these concepts HR people are knowing. Otherwise, others also must have learned in HRM. Job analysis, job description, job specification speaks about CSR. Again, a new act which is done in 2010. Yesterday, I just made a mention of the CSR. So if a company is making some profit, then it is only because of the society. So they have to give back to the society. So the Indian government has to make a law to ask the people to spend on society. But then this was already there present 5,000 years before. Goodwill, as I mentioned earlier, Peter's principle also I mentioned, unethical practices will take the businesses to zero. Sannyas yoga doesn't mean that going to Himalaya and leaving your families. It simply means that you have to have peace of mind. You have to benchmark your own competencies, develop them. Then you have to be considering everybody at the equal level, equitable level, not equal level. Everyone may not be excellent. Like all of you may be getting different marks. Somebody of you will get selected in an MNC, whereas somebody will get selected in a new entrepreneurial firm in the your local city. Doesn't matter. According to your own abilities, you will get selected, and then according to the abilities of the team members, you should be able to get out of those people. Stress management, which is the most important part, which I mentioned earlier. So you can do the meditation practices which are mentioned in chapter 5 and 6. 6 also speaks about meditation and self-control, relaxation, managing stress. Then there is a process mentioned of meditation, how we are supposed to sit straight and then inhale, exhale, keep your eyes closed. All your thoughts should be away. As I mentioned earlier, 6,400 thoughts in a day. Very difficult to remove all the thoughts from the mind. And if you are able to do it, then you are able to control your mind. Then we should have to have proper HR policies, because job satisfaction depends on that. We have to have work and life balance, and we have to have agility in whatever you're doing. 7th is knowledge and science. See what thought is there in Bhagavad Gita. It was already giving importance to science, and it treats human beings as per medical science. This human body is considered as made or designed to do something. We keep on doing many things in our life, but that has been designed by, I won't say God, some power which has made you as a human being. So there are many things which you are supposed to do by using different parts of your body. So maintaining interpersonal relationships, departmentation is there in the organizations. Then it also defines who are professionals, like you are going to be professionals. Then as I mentioned, HR analytics and talent management or talent analytics is already there. It says that you're, with reference to one of the slides earlier, don't think about future, don't think about what has happened in the past, be in the present. So HR analytics will be giving you the data analysis of what you have done in the past, what is there happening today. But HR analytics has gone one step ahead of Bhagavad Gita, and it says that it will give you what is going to happen in future, what in analytics terms we call as a predictive analysis. So it will study all your past figures of say your labor turnover in your company, and then it will project then in next 5 years how many people are going to leave. So that is what is happening in analytics, but then it is already mentioned in Bhagavad Gita. So Lord Krishna says that I know your future. That is, analytics knows the future. Analytics can predict the future. I know your past. Analytics takes all the past data, but be in the present, fight with your enemy. So analytics also gives you a lot of data analysis, what is happening today, what has happened in the past, and what is likely to happen in the future. The concept was already there in Bhagavad Gita. 8th, SOP, very commonly used terminology in production or in any organization called as standard operating processes. Everything has to be standardized. Whatever you're doing, production methods, production line, so there has to be standard processes defined in particular steps, in particular sequence, and those have to happen only like that. You cannot take a shortcut, then in that case, you may not have a quality in your product. So skills development and change management, yesterday I had mentioned about National Skill Development Corporation. So 8th chapter was mentioning about development of the skills, which was lacking in the today's workers. So crores of people are developed under NSDC. 9, if you could see, there's only one word in the entire slide: knowledge. So you have to be very much clear about your knowledge, what is supreme, how you can make proper use of knowledge, how you can make corrupt use of knowledge. All the companies who have done a lot of negative things to the society, the company who got closed, Satyam, we can say, then Kingfisher, all those closed, only because they were expert in making the corrupt use of knowledge. Knowledge definitely they had, but then they used it negatively, having some negative business strategy, and they came down. I remember when the flights, there were some rates, flight tickets. When other flight this air services providing agencies and companies, they were charging, let's say, 10,000 rupees for a flight. That time Kingfisher used to charge somewhere 60,000. That much difference was there, with a lot of negative things happening in the company, and the day is proven that the company has gone down to the dooms and it is closed. It's because they have made a corrupt use of knowledge. So you have to be very much ethical in your businesses, and the fruits will come accordingly. 10th chapter speaks about who is an idol, who is the person whom you can worship. So this chapter ideally speaks that, okay, somewhere here. Yeah, you have to be becoming supernatural or the supreme or extreme in whatever you do. So you try to be on the top of whatever you do. So if you're into marketing, try to become, let's make it simple, try to become a GM or a CEO of some company. So you should always have to have the aim of reaching to the top or to the highest level in a perspective of making yourself the best what you can do. So you have to give out your best, you have to reach to the top and best in your particular fraternity or in your career. 11th is known as Vishwarup. Vishwa is world. And I remember that there's this Mahabharata serial. This was one of the very famous episode where Lord Krishna opens his mouth and Arjuna could see the entire world in revolving in his mouth. And he could see all the warriors which are there in front of him going into the into Lord Shri Krishna's mouth, and everybody's getting killed. So this is nothing but talking about the universe. So today's businesses are supposed to have a global view. You cannot think about being local. What we say, typical those who are in Pune or from Pune, they might be knowing that Pune businesses, they have got a board outside their shops. They say it, Amchi Kothei Shakha Nahi. We don't have any branches. So nothing doing. We do not want any such kind of businesses who do not want to go out of Pune. Whereas every business should think about going global, improving the businesses going out of Pune, going out of Maharashtra, going out of India. And the more you become global, the more prosperity you will have, of course, with all the ethical practices. If you're doing unethical things, then whatever global business, that will also come down. So there is something called as global product life cycle with reference to marketing. Then you always should have to have a universal competition rather than competing with the local people. Then it also speaks about foreign direct investment, the policy which our government, Indian government has come up in 1991, liberalization, privatization, globalization. So that has invested a lot of foreign currencies into Indian businesses, and it has helped to globally improvise our Indian economy. So foreign direct investments are also mentioned in 11th chapter. And vision for being global, I told you that you have to be thinking about future becoming global rather than sticking to local market. 12th Adhyay is talking about types of industries, which we learn in first year, basic fundamentals of businesses, manufacturing, services, then continuum, that is a combination of two. So balanced person is the one who's liked by the authorities. Nobody would be liking a person who's always angry, who's always yelling at the people, who's always imbalancing the entire environment. The balanced person, smiling person, the person who's very much, I won't say happy-go-lucky, but then who considers happiness and sorrow equally. He will be not getting disturbed by negative things happening. He will not be too much happy. There are cases where people have come across a heart attack because they heard a very good news which they didn't expect. So that is again an imbalance. So you should be able to control on your emotions, because balanced person is always liked by all others. Then this speaks about your entire body is used for some kind of skills which you have. Again, if you see only skill is the word. So your body is used for different kind of skills. Eyes have got some function, ears have got some functions, fingers have got certain functions. So the moment you're making proper use of it, you're making the entire use of the body. Your body is just like a field, and you're doing the activities which are to be done on the field. There are three kinds of personalities. Sattva, Raja, Tama. These are the three names. Sattva is the person who are very much pious. Raja means all the people like you and me who would like to have masala things, go to hotel, enjoy, go for trips and excursion. And Tama people means all those who do corrupt use of knowledge, those who do bribery things, those who do unethical practices. So what are the characteristics of all these three types of people? All the people in the earth, on the earth, are categorized only into these three categories: Sattva, Raja, and Tama. That is likely to come up. 15th chapter, as the title itself says, Purushottama means the one, the leader who is the best leader. So it always, it speaks about different types of leader, which are learned in either OB or fundamentals of management. Different types of leader: participative leader, charismatic leader, social leader, etc., etc. So all the different types are very well covered in 15th chapter. 16, there are two types of personalities which we have already seen, the good wolf and a bad wolf. So there are divine personalities or divine businesses, and there are unethical business. So divine and devil. So devil and divine. So you have to decide what kind of businesses you want to run. Accordingly, you will have the fruits of those businesses. 17th speaks about values and beliefs and business strategies. There is a lot of importance given to philanthropy, faith, trust of your businesses. And you have to be following all the values in the business. As I mentioned here, Sattvic, Rajasic, and Tamasic. Sattva, Raja, Tama. So you should be in this category. Sattva means you are always behaving good to the people, always following ethical things, always eating a good quality food, always serving the society without expectation, and so on and so on. Rajasical, majority of the business who are talking about increasing the turnover of the business. So sell more, so compete with the competitor, have some strategy which will sell your product more, so your turnover goes up, so you're more successful. And you got next year still higher target. Whereas tamasi means you do some kind of underworld activities, you do some kind of negative things, unethical things, and your businesses will grow. But then those cannot be sustaining if you're not following the sattvic practices. You have to do a lot of philanthropy, means helping the society. And 18th chapter is said to be the summary of all the 17th chapter. So as I said, there are 18 chapters. So if you have never read this thing, read only the 18th chapter, you'd be able to get to know what is there in all first 17 chapters. All the words you can read. I'll be forwarding this PDF to you. Okay, so this is from my book, which I have written. I'll send some copies to your library. Then quickly going through in the last 20 minutes, quickly go through what Kautilya has talked about. Kautilya is also known as Chanakya. And there was a mention of him somewhere earlier yesterday, first few slides. So he was a teacher, basically, as I said, Indian teacher in Takshashila University, but he was a great philosopher, economist, jurist, and royal advisor to the kingdom of Chandragupta. So he was an advisor. Earlier, the kings used to have such kind of advisors who used to be rishis. And that's why the leadership is called as Rajarshi. It's a combination of Raja and Rishi always. So if you see all the mythological histories, Ramayana, Mahabharata, those were all been advised. Ram and Arjuna, those were advised by these Rishi-like people. That's why the kingdom ran very properly and successfully. So he was talking and he was giving advice to Chandragupta Maurya, and he was one of the successful king who always keep the people happy in his kingdom. So he says the person should not be too honest. Straight teeth are cut first and honest people are used. It doesn't mean that you're supposed to be dishonest. You should be devising the strategy which is not negative in a way, but then it will serve your purpose. This doesn't mean that you should be dishonest. A man is great by deeds, not by birth. And that's what Bhagavad Gita also said, that you may be born in a particular family, but then it doesn't matter what you do in your entire life, that matters. Education is the best friend. An educated person is respected everywhere. Education beats the beauty and youth. Trait theory of leadership, we have learned that everyone has to have certain qualities, basic qualities every king should have. And those qualities should be a combination of intelligence and personal attributes. So you should have to have an intelligence of running the state. At the same time, you should always think about positively and think about the good of the people, his praja, what we see. Transformation leadership means change, making changes, bringing changes. The king is expected to bring the changes into the society. If the leaders of the country does not bring the change, that country is likely to remain behind in the competition of the world. So the king should be said that he would be making changes in the society. So Kautilya believed in characteristics. Those are based on values, and nothing should be done without any negative values. So everything should be ethical. That is what Kautilya was always teaching to Chandragupta. What are the duties of leader? He should be effective, efficient. He should be truthfully governing his state, and it presents two pillars, that is justice and ethics. So he should be very much having justice, and he should be following all the ethics. Again, here I would like to give you the example of Shivaji Maharaj. He was known for giving justice. At the same time, he was always very much ethical. Then human element, you should never forget to balance between emotions and the reason. You should not be emotional, but at the same time, you should not be giving less importance to emotions, because every individual human being, irrespective of whether it is seen or not, is an emotional person. So everybody is having heart. So heart is related, connected with the emotions. So you have to consider the emotions and then take the actions or give the reactions accordingly. So you should understand people. That's what this particular human element of leadership speaks. You need to understand the people, their emotions, and then you need to understand that everyone has got positive or negative emotions, and then you should take the proper actions. Then societal growth should be kept into mind. preventive measures from all the calamities. You should take care about your laborers. During Corona situation, you might be knowing that what government is doing. Again, I don't want to go into those discussion, but then there are certain funds assigned. There are certain, lot of people are helping the society. A lot of people are taking care about the labor who have lost their jobs. Lakhs of people lost their jobs due to Corona. But then there are some people who came forward to help all these people who lost their jobs or lost their career, etc. Then the king should make sure that ministers are also working for the betterment of the people. It is just like Prime Minister is asking the ministers, cabinet ministers, to do their work honestly. Again, bracket question mark. So if they do their work honestly, then the entire country will progress. The king should test their capacity, the officials, and their potential. So based on the ability of handling a particular department, the minister should be given that particular department. There was a ministry expansion last week. So the things which are given, or the kind of departments which are given to these ministers, are based on their abilities. So there are a lot of women there in the new Mantralaya. Then there are Mantri structure. Then there are doctors and lawyers who are handling those kind of departments. So education minister has to be educated. It's just as simple as that. So you need to understand the potential of the minister and give the work accordingly. Kings should have humility even to those who are defeated. So you should not be considering or giving less importance to the people who lost the battle. So you should always be treating them also with equal grace, and you should be giving importance to them. Try to understand them as well. Networking is required. You don't need to tell what is the importance of networking. You're always connected with the people. Then there should not be any kind of imbalance. Organizations together should manage all the things which are there in your businesses. Then you should have unrivaled assets. That means when you're making any kind of collaboration, mergers and acquisitions, those should be in such a way that only you are doing the collaborations for the good of the society and for the good of both the employees. See why there are, just now as I mentioned, why there are a lot of mergers and acquisitions, the banks, because there were some banks which were running into a loss. So another bank which is making profit, that has taken over this bank. So together they have come up with a better solution, and the bank's financial status, then all the people who are working for both the banks, they will get merged, so they will not lose their job. Their families will also be secured. So it is because the collaboration is happening in the positive direction. Organizations should strengthen their religions and outside risk and alliances. So you should always be thinking about, while making these collaborations or alliances, what are the risks involved. So nowadays, the entire world is talking about having alliances or not having alliances with China. It is only from the perspective of possible risks of businesses or possible potential of your businesses with such kind of alliances. So you have to be very much studying what are the possible risks in having those kind of alliances. Strategic communication, powerful communication, delegation of powers, and higher hierarchical levels to lower ones. So this is all talking about communication from bottom to the top and proper communication. Crisis management speaks about, because that's why we do SWOT analysis. This is also called as SOC. So strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. In the place of threats, it is now challenges. So what challenges your businesses have, and accordingly, how do you decide the strategies? So in crisis management, typically what is been done by all the businesses today for last 1 year, 3 months during Corona period, all businesses are doing crisis management. Then 8 different factors listed for crisis management. So these are the reasons for which you have to keep on doing crisis management. I'll skip that. And last but not least is, this is the model which Kautilya has developed. This is called as a leadership model. It says that you have to be self-purified. So you have to know yourself first. You have to purify yourself. You have to acquire the skills, whatever are required for your position, provided you have got certain inherent potential. Supposing you want to become a surgeon, but then for becoming a surgeon, you have to be having your basic MBBS degree, then only you can improvise on acquiring skills of surgery or doing something different in that profession. So basically you have to have certain things with you, then only you can develop the skills in that area. At the same time, you need to have quality in whatever you're doing, and your mindset should be in congruence with what potential you have, and it should be leading to the betterment of the society. That's what it says. So with the combination of your proper positive mindset and the qualities which you have, you might have the surgeries being done free of cost or at lesser cost. There's one doctor who has got name in Limca Book of Records. He has done some 300 eye surgeries in a day, and that too free of cost. I guess it's Dr. Kankria. So it is because he has got quality. He has learned it from Germany and some different technology using eye surgeries within, say, some minutes of time. He has got a mindset of curing the typical eye defect, which is called as motiabind, Hindi mein jise bolte hain. So that was a very prevalent problem in most of the Indian senior citizens' eyes. So he has thought of demolishing this kind of possibility in the entire from out of India. So he has got a positive mindset and he has got quality by the way, the kind of course which has done, acquired the skills, basically being a doctor and being self-purification intention of people welfare. So all the leaders will be great only when they will go through this particular process. And that's what Kautilya has said. This is a description of what I've told you is written on the left-hand side. Last 10 minutes, there's a concept called as Veda model of leadership. And this speaks about dialectic harmony. Dial means two. So there are two parts and harmony is always happening between balancing the two parts. And there's a Chinese philosophy which talks about yin and yang. The same philosophy we got in India called as Ardhanari Nateshwar. That is Lord Shankara is called as Ardhanari. You might have seen the pictures of Lord Shankara where half of the body is of man and half of the body is of women. So if we have to have the balance in the entire world, we need both women and men both. Only men on the entire earth and only women on the entire earth will not make the earth run. So we have to have a proper balance of the same Ardhanari Nateshwar is yin and yang, that is female and male. This Veda model has got four objects in the life, all of us: Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha. This we have spoken earlier, so I'll skip. Then there are three qualities of people. This also could be skipped. This Dharma means being ethical, Artha means being material, Kama means being sensual, and Moksha means being spiritual. All the four things are required. You cannot remain without money. You cannot remain without enjoyment. You can sustain being unethical, but then you're not supposed to. And you cannot remain if you're not spiritual. So you have to develop all these four things for your life. Veda stands for V for vision, E for enlightenment, D for devotion, and A for action. Vision speaks about Raja Yoga, this being best, whatever you can do. Enlightenment is Jnana Yoga. You should understand where your ignorance areas are there. So you get Jnana, means try, learn, and new knowledge, get more knowledge. You will become enlightened in your life. Devotion, so you have to devote, you have to give back and do your action, do your karma as you are told to. So this Veda model is not a name of the inventor. V stand for vision, enlightenment, devotion, and action. Then the same model says that every person should be like a Sthita Prajna. So Sthita is stable and Prajna is brain. So brain or mind, you can say. So you should have to have a balanced brain. Means you should not get disturbed. Just now I mentioned, get disturbed by negative things happening to you or positive things getting affected you, overwhelming too much. So you should be balanced, and a balanced person will definitely be liked by all. There is one university in Mount Abu by the name Brahma Kumari Spiritual University. So these people are teaching Raj Yoga, which is applicable to the modern times. That means how you can acquire best out of you and how you can enhance your best potential to give out the best to the society. And it speaks about self-realization. So you must know yourself. And that's what I told you some slides before Bhagavad Gita, that you must know what you have, what qualities do you have, what qualities you do not have. You must realize yourself, and then accordingly you can develop. This is that model. So initially you might be self-centric. So try to develop yourself so that once you get developed, you will be able to develop the group in which you're working or for which you're working. Then this group will also develop. This group should also have to have the people which are skill-centric. Just like doing any kind of work, we have got, let's say, 10 people working. All the 10 people have got different skill sets. And then all the skills put together will be able to make that group successful in whatever activity they are doing. Then self-determining that whatever things, skills, qualities they do have, those should be analyzed and those should be achieved. Those qualities which you don't have, for which you need to self-question. You need to keep on asking what is that thing which is not available, and accordingly you can develop yourself with a skill, with your determination by self-questioning. Self-questioning means asking yourself, what is that thing which I do not have? What is that thing which I need to enhance? What is that thing, the qualities which I do not possess? So you have to keep on questioning, then only you will get the answers. If you think that I know everything, you really cannot do anything. And self-actualization in integrating and transforming. So once you're ready with all the skills, qualities, potential abilities, then you are supposed to simply integrate, make use of it, and then transfer the entire thing happening around. And then you should be construct aware, noticing the possible difficulties which are likely to be there in doing a particular activity in a team, where the most important factor is ego traps. Ego trap is if you consistently point out the problems you see in the society and other people more than you offer solutions to those problems, you are in a ego trap. So it is just like you will always find the people around you will complaining, will keep on complaining, अरे ऐसा नहीं हो रहा है, वैसे नहीं हो रहा है, क्या सैलरी में नहीं adjust हो रहा है, ऐसा होना चाहिए, दूसरों को ज्यादा मिल रहा है. So you know the problems, but then you are not trying to find a solution. In that case, you are said to be in an ego trap. So you know what is the problem. You keep on talking about the problems, but then you are not trying to find out the solution for that. And that happens in most of the team elements and most of the team efforts. So you should be, as a team, able to find out where the ego trap is. Then a solution is very much possible. And then that solution is always unitive. That means all embracing and witnessing, and for the development of the society, for the transcendence, means going beyond a particular limit. So these are the phases: pre-conventional, developing, then conventional is gathering skills, and then post-conventional. After this, you have to think about what is new thing happening. Where are the ego traps? That means conventionally you are learning skills, the group is developing, group is acquiring different kind of skills. Unconventionally, you are going beyond, means assuming that this is already done. Now you go to self-question, what is there anything which is still remaining? Is there anything which I need to transform? Is there anything where I'm trying to correlate the efforts, where I'm trying to club all the activities together by self-questioning? That is post-conventional. And then transcendence is going beyond a particular limit. That is the intention. So this particular model is called as Veda model. The same model is explained in some different way, keeping all the things same. Self-centric group is same, only the diagrammatic representation is different. It is just like going step by step, and you will reach to, you can say, heaven in a way. So you will reach to the intranscendent kind of a state. So you will reach, or you will cross the borders of what you're supposed to do, and you will always be helping the society. Because ultimately, whatever you are doing in businesses, the businesses are only for the betterment of the society and the societal element, that is people. If your product, if your service is not helping the people, it is of no use. Nobody is going to purchase, of course, the product which is not of any use to. Suppose tomorrow you start manufacturing typewriters, nobody will purchase it, because that is not a need of today. So you have to give to the society what the society is needing. You have to satisfy the customer, what the customer is wanting, and then accordingly, you have to keep on developing your products. And that happens through all these things. If I want to develop some product, it has to go through self-development. If I'm developing a new product, I need to have the people who are having those skills. And those could be possible by developing the people first, developing the skills of the people, developing or asking them to do some kind of course, learning some advanced technologies, learning some new courses, new concepts, then bringing those technology into the group, in the organization, then following all the rules, regulations, all norms, all production, all SOPs. Then you will come out with some such product which is definitely transcend your own product, as well as something which is new you will come up with your company, and that is going to help to the society. So ultimate aim of any businesses must be from the perspective of helping the mankind, the human beings which are there on the earth. No businesses will grow if you are not having a product or service which is going to help the mankind or the people. Same model explained in different way. Then there's another 5K model, quickly in last 5 minutes. The K stands for K for Karta, is the in charge of the family, that means CEO of the company. Then Karma is what the company is doing, what you're doing. Karma is what duties you're performing. Kutumba, you're doing for your own family. Karuna is your respect to the society. And Kesri is leading. So Kesri is the word given to lion. So you should be a good leader. It should be for the society, and you treat your own employees also like your kutumba. Kutumba means your family, and you should be doing your job properly. And Karta is the chief of the society. So Karta and Kesri are more or less the same, but then here Karta may be CEO, but then Kesri may be the leader. Manager and leader, that difference we have learned in HRM. So Kesri is a leader and Karta is a manager, CEO of a company. That's a 5K model. Then there is another model, Indian model for corporate development. So organization, you have to treat it as a family. So if you treat your family members, then you will always want your family members to get developed. You will always want your family members to work for something. So that is Shubha Labh, means whatever pious things you do, ethical things you do, definitely you will get the fruits of it. And then Nishkama Karma means no expect. Nishkama means do not have any expectation from the kind of work which you're doing. So combination of these two will lead to Loka Sangrah. The more you work for the betterment of the people without any expectation, then human welfare will automatically happening. And the human welfare should be on the apex of every organization. So your product, your services should be only for the benefit of the society. Otherwise, your organization, your businesses cannot grow. This is theory K, X theory, Y theory, and Z theory. Theory K says that K is combination of X plus Y plus Z. So these are the different philosophies. X considers that human beings are just like beasts or the commodities. Y says that human beings are self-actualization. And Z says that it's a combination of the two. Z is combination of X and Y, and K is combination of X plus Y plus Z. So depending upon the situation, you will have to behave. That's theory K suggests, with all the complicated things written on the screen. It only suggests that you should be working according to the situation. Like these Sigmund Freud, then F.W. Taylor, Max Weber, you can remember from Management Fundamentals. These people were talking about time and motion study, machineries, etc. These people were talking about Douglas MacGregor, then Likert, Abraham Maslow, Friedrich Herzberg. These were talking about the behavior of the people, psychology of the people. But then more practical approaches given by Locke, then Kelly, Peter Drucker, Sullivan. These people were talking that it is not that always the psychology hampers the people. It is not that you should always be strict and consider every individual human being as a machine. So we have to have a combination of both. Sometimes the people should be considered as machine that coming in and going out sharp on time. So they have to do the thumb scanning. Then only you will be paid salary. That is X. When somebody is having some personal problem in the family, okay, we'll consider, you don't have to give me a leave application. You can go. It is a serious thing. So where we are giving importance to the people's emotion. But then depending upon a situation, you have to take whether you have to be very strict. No, nothing doing. You cannot have a leave today. We have got some committee coming. So we have got this production target to be achieved. So Z is a balanced situation, a combination of X, Y, and Z. And theory K says that you have to at times be very strict. You have to at times very much considerable. You have to at times have a combination of the X and Y. And the most successful is you have a combination of X, Y, and Z. So the successful manager is the one who is able to balance all this situation, keeping all the things together and behaving according to the situation. That's it. This East and West is already covered in unit number 1. So I will not focus more on this. In last, actually the time is over. When you go through this PDF, you can go through this chapter from Himalaya publication. You are likely to get most of the things which I was talking, except Bhagavad Gita, because that was not mentioned anywhere. Any questions we still have? We can just wait for another 5 minutes. I'll be sending the PDF of unit number 1, which Dr. Nandini has covered, and this unit number 2, which I have covered. The combined 1 and 2, I'll send it. And from next session onwards, Dr. Nandini will continue with unit number 3, 4, and 5. Sorry, I couldn't give you the break today because it was supposed to be covered in 2 hours. Yes, it's 8 o'clock according to my watch. If you don't have any questions.
Thank you, sir, for such a wonderful session. In
Thank
spite
you.
of your busy schedule,
Yeah, that's why I chose this
time
situation
for
to
our
make.
students. The subject is very philosophical, sir. Basically,
And
it's
very
very
vast,
challenging.
basically. It's very difficult to understand these concepts at this level. And
Yeah.
in 4 hours, that too. Slightly
And that to make the students understand.
Yeah, that's more important.
I think the examples which you gave were very valuable.
True.
Which were relevant with respect to that concept.
Yeah, right.
So students, any feedback, any question from your side?
Hello, madam. Good morning,
Yes.
sir. Tukaram this side.
Yeah.
Sir, this actually, thank you so much for entire explanations from our Bhagavad Gita and Ramayana. It connected to the our professional life in how to use it in corporate culture. That is very useful. Just wanted to can you suggest us that which book should we refer as a being a leader, as a being subordinate, how to perform in our corporate culture?
Okay, now theoretical book, I will just, I do not remember all the names of the authors, but then in this PDF, I'll send you those books names also. So that if at all those are available in your library, you can refer to that.
Yeah,
I'll send it across. I don't remember the authors, and there are no much books available. There's one small book on Indian ethos and management with the same title. That also I'll send a photograph along with this PDF.
Sure, sir. Sure, sir. Thank you so much.
And I shall send my book also to your library so that it could help you.
Sure, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, thank you all. Nice talking to you. I don't know whether you were hearing for 4 hours, but then I presume that you were doing justice to what you're supposed to do.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, sir.